So how does this precise language thing work out? How does it work? Where do I start? The more I think about it, it gets easier and more complicated as time goes on. But to give you the basic gist of how to use precise language or what it is, honestly, I dance around it all the time because I don't want to be so bold. But it's the language of God. It's the language of the Creator. It is the original word. And when you want to see what is, what's real, it's found through using precise language. It is communication without assumption. Very direct, very clear, very precise. Language is a tool. Let's back up a little bit here. So language is a tool that's used to take an image and an intention from one person's mind into another person's mind. And this advantage has given us the leg up on being the most dominant species, because we can share information through linguistic communication instead of just being shown how to do things. That's how animals pass on communication, right? Like the mother bear teaches the cub to hunt, fish, and all that. The cub learns through example. And the thing is, we learn through example as well, but we also, because of language, gives us an opportunity to see time differently. And whereas a bear can only see what is now, he can't reminisce about 3 years ago when he had that one fish that was just so delicious, and he can't worry about a storm that's coming 2 years from now. He sees things almost, completely in the present. There's some anticipation of the future and thoughts of the past, but no, they don't hold on to it, or they don't fear that of which they cannot see. We do, though. Because of the way that we use language, we fear that of which we cannot see. We get anxious about the future, or we get depressed about the past because we can't see it because of the language that we're using. But the language that we use empowers us to learn from the past, because when you're reading a book, you're time traveling into another place where someone is showing you something and using it with language. It's a time travel tool that allows us to see time in two dimensions of it allows you to see it in the singular dimension of the present, and also adds two other dimensions, which is past and future. Yeah, okay. So when trying to communicate a true intention, we need to speak only of what is, and you need to speak within integrity of universal truth. Meaning that you can't say anything that's not true. So, that's what makes it the language of God. And I don't mean God as like the creator in the sky. I mean God as the entity that is everything. Because by definition, God is everything. God is everywhere. God is something, anything, he's nothing. Like, that is what God is. And I say he just because I'm used to it, because I grew up non-denominational Christian. But God is a sexless entity that is simply objective reality. So, therefore, anything that exists is of God, and anything that exists can be articulated using language. Language is the tool of the Creator. It's the deliverer of the free will that bridges the gap between two imaginations, two hearts, two intentions. And because of this, we're able to thrive and succeed and to progress. I mean, you don't see monkeys having like roadways and internet and shit. Not at all. Like, we're able to accelerate our progression because of the gift we have of language. But also, it is used to divide us, to deceive, to cast negativity towards people and assumptions and cause suffering and anxiety. But when you use language as it was originally intended, if you use it in a real way that is in integrity of the laws of the universe, you'll start to see everything that you ever wanted to see. That is the point of someone else when you're having a heated argument. That is your inner desires when it comes to what should I do with my life, how should I contribute, why am I here? It goes for the I can't figure out how to get out of this jam, I'm stuck. All of the answers you need for all progression, for all creation, for all healing, for all connection, all reside already inside of you. It just needs to be discovered and seen. And that of which can be seen then can have a strategy of what to do with it. But only until you see it can you know what to do with it. So the first part is to see it. And we use language to not only communicate with other people, but we use language to communicate with ourselves in order for us to see our own thoughts. Because that's what our consciousness is. It is a series of lenses that is experiencing one thing, but also part of our consciousness is watching the experience happen, and we have that conversation with ourselves, our inner dialogue in our head, that when we're talking, someone's listening and talking back. We're almost these two separate entities that can have a self-discussion. Because of language, we could do that. My dog Mojo can't do that. And he's not snoring on this podcast, thank God. He's chewing his blanket. Double check my mics here. We're still good. So first, to be able to speak in universal truth, this creator's language, the healer's language, the conscious creator's language, the language of the will, language of intent, is you have to first understand 3 universal laws. 3 universal laws. The first law is everything is something and somewhere. Everything is something and somewhere. I lost my keys. Where are they at? It's nowhere. No, they're somewhere. Even if you die and those keys are still yet to be found, they are somewhere. Okay? And everything is something. What are you feeling right now? Nothing. You're feeling something. Like, did you feel that? Okay, so now you feel a pinch. What else are you feeling? You feeling the air on your skin? What else are you feeling? Are you feeling content, sad, upset, confused? Whatever. You're always feeling something. So everything is something and somewhere. Everything has a place. Everything is a noun, and it has a location. So the next universal law is everything is always moving all the time. Even when you get down to a molecular level, or once you get down to a molecular level, you start to see that everything is both particle and wave. Even things that are stationary are constantly moving. If I'm sitting still here, I'm still moving. This earth is still rotating thousands of miles or tens of, I don't know how fast the earth rotates, and it's still being hurled through space at an incredible rate. It's always moving all the time. The universe is continually expanding at an accelerated rate all the time. So everything's moving all the time. This means that when you say something is over, it's not over. It's still moving. So what happened to it? It transitioned into what? Or when you say to yourself, like, I just want this to end. leave it this way. I just want this to end. Well, you want what to end? Because life continues to move on. Existence continues to move on. So everything, I just want you to stop doing that. Stop is a void because like everything's moving all the time. So what do you want me to do? You see this a lot in like with parents with kids. And when you use voids, it creates room for assumption, okay? So like everyone has seen like little kids like, don't touch your brother. And so what you do is you put your finger as close to him as you can. And he's like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. The spirit of the statement, don't touch your brother, is in like, you're being a dick and like, you should be nice. Instead of a parent saying to a child, don't touch your brother, you can say, please go sit on the stairs quietly. Or you give them a directive. When you speak in precise language and clear language, everything is an affirmation. Everything is what is. Because everything is something and everything is somewhere. And you speak of what is, and you don't talk about what the end or the finish, because everything is always moving all the time. So nothing ends, it just transitions. So what do you want that transition to be? When someone says, I want you to stop talking to me like that. Well, that's open for interpretation. I mean, stop talking to you like this if you're raising your voice. Raising your voice higher is technically talking to them differently, so you're obeying their wish. Again, open for interpretation. I wish you would speak to me in a respectful manner. I wish you would speak in a lower tone. That's a clear way of saying, don't speak to me that way. When you say to someone, I don't want to feel, insignificant. Well, don't is a void, because you do want to feel some way. So how do you want to feel? So you start to see this as a communicator, like we get stuck in our language when we use it with ourselves and with other people, because we get in this loop. I don't want to feel this way. How do you want to feel? I don't know. I just don't want to feel this way. Okay, well then, how do you want to feel? I don't know. Well, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. And you just keep going into these circles. And what isn't is when you say, let me give you an example here. It leaves room for assumption. Void language does. Actually, let me back up here. So I'm not going to go that far. Let me continue with the universal truths. The third universal truth is everything is true from some perspective. From some perspective, everything is true. And this can go down even to the laws of physics. But let me give you a more real-world example. Everything is, here's my example. If I walk up to your car and I take a hammer and I bash the window, and you would probably consider me to be a dick, okay? And from the perspective of I just walked up to your car and smashed your window, I am a dick. But smashing your window doesn't make me a dick. Because if your child was in there and it was 130 degrees in there, and they were asking, a toddler trying to get out but doesn't know how, and I bashed the window, I'm a hero. So from some perspective, bashing a window is an honorable thing, heroic thing. From another perspective, it is kind of an evil and an asshole thing to do. So when you say, you make me feel like shit, from some perspective, no matter whether you did something shitty or not, that is true. Given the circumstance and their imagination objectively happened, you then would be an asshole. So this rule really helps you to empathize with people's reality, because it allows you to address that there is a reality in your head called your imagination that is just as real as objective reality here, but they do have a difference. They do have a role, and they do have consequences in the way that this human existence works, that relationships work, that society works. But realizing that everything is true from some perspective, you can spin almost anything to be true. But then, once you can see the subjective perspective that is true, that is real, okay, I guess it would be more so that right. Pardon me. I would rather go with, I think it's more so everything is real from some perspective. Right. No, it's true. It's true. Okay. Everything's true from some perspective, right? So when it comes to subjective reality, we look at objective reality, and then we determine what's real, okay? What's real in this world, what's real in this world, what's real in this world. So those three things. If you speak in a way, and like here's the whole secret, whole ball of wax. If you speak in a way that honors the unarguable truths, that everything is something and somewhere, everything is moving all of the time, and everything is true from some perspective, you communicate in that way. Resolution, creation, making your dreams happen, fixing a relationship, getting your point across, being happy, rewiring your brain for success in any and every area of your life becomes possible. It's only a matter of time. So let me give you some examples of how people use void language. Someone says, I want to avoid making mistakes. Well, avoid is a void word. So what do you want to make instead of mistakes? Okay. You would say, I want to act with precision. Okay, now that makes sense. Now you can go deeper into that. What does that look like for you? What could you do that would reflect that you're acting with precision? And now you're starting to have a roadmap. So you can ask, what does precision mean to you? You could say, I want to act with precision. How much precision? And you can start to open that up. Whereas when you say, I want to avoid making mistakes, I don't want to make mistakes. Well, you do want something, because don't is avoid, because to not something that it always is something. You want something. What is it? I want to perform on a high level. I want to be praised for my work. I want to be recognized for my good doing. I want people to appreciate my creations. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, and we can constantly progress. Well, when we use voids, we stop the progression because we get caught in the loop of just like, I don't want to make mistakes. And what happens is the term mistakes pops up in the theater of your mind. And every fuck up you've had in that area is going to be playing, which those images, those memories are associated to emotions the way that you felt at the time. And now those emotions are dug up and you're feeling that way, and now that you're talking about the thing that you want to accomplish, all you're feeling is that rejection and that failure and that pain. This is why it's important for us to get to the root of the problem, but because of our emotions, those intense emotions that causes us to stay in that state of mind. You know, Tony Robbins talks about, like, if you want to change your actions, you have to change your state. And what's so dangerous about the negative state of mind is when we try to get out, we negotiate with ourselves. We have a conversation. We're constantly having a conversation in our head. And when we use void language, it leaves room for interpretation. And if your emotional state of being is pain, it's going to interpret anything objectively as pain. That's why you have to use your, so it's like, I want to avoid making mistakes. Avoid is void. I hate when I make mistakes. Okay, that's clear. What do you mean by hate? I feel worthless. Well, you're worth something. So how do you really feel? I feel like I'm performing at a level lower than my ability. Well, what ability do you think you have to perform? And then have them lay that out. And now you see that going from that void of like, I want to avoid making mistakes, as long as you're using precise language and making it clear, you can pivot in any different direction, because maybe that statement, that void, is rooted in something in the past that's really hurting you, that you need to release, that you need to address and release. Maybe it's worry of the future, like you don't have a plan and it's just like you're flying by the seat of your pants. And so if they say, I hate making mistakes, okay, well, that's a thing in the past. What makes you feel that way? If they correct their void of I want to avoid making mistakes by saying I want to perform on a high level, now you know that it's a strategy issue. Well, what does a high level mean? And then you can break that down. A high level might be, for business, making $10,000 in sales or $1 million in sales. And then you reverse engineer that into actions. Okay, what needs to take place in order for you to do that? Well, I need to sign these 5 accounts. Okay, what do you need to sign those 5 accounts? I need to make pitches. What do you need to make pitches? I need a pitch deck. What do you need to make a pitch deck? It's like, I need time to do it. Okay, take a look at your calendar. How much time do you think it's going to take to do it? 10 hours. When does it need to be done by? 1 week. Where can we find 10 hours in this 1 week to get this pitch done? Boom. And you can see that it provides constant progress. And as long as you are moving at least 1 inch a day, you're still moving forward. But when you get caught in a loop, you can travel just crazy distances while staying in the same place. People get so worried that I don't want to fail. Well, you're always succeeding at something. No, I'm not. That's a void. Yes, you are. You're succeeding at something. Like what? Feel that heart beating? You're succeeding at living. Okay, so let's start there. What else can you do? And then you get back into clear language. Now, if it's like, what else can you do? You say, oh, I don't know. You ask a simple question. What do you want? Clearly, what do you want? And force yourself to do this. The best way to practice this is in a meditation practice that I call 5 and 5, where you sit for 5 minutes in complete silence and just ponder on something that you want to figure out. And then for 5 minutes, allow your pen to just keep on moving. That's it. Just like every day. 5 minutes, keep the pen moving. And then take a look at your language and see where the voids are. Now, some common voids are not, never, the contraction N apostrophe T. Okay? If you say something's, if you say something, how do I do this? If you're angry at someone, you say, that person doesn't have any respect for me. They have some respect for you. No, they don't. Yes, they do. Did they kill you? No? Okay. So they have some respect for you. And even if they killed you, did they kill your family? Did they blow up the world? There is some level of respect. They don't respect anything. Okay? Well, don't is a void. So what do they respect? Themselves. Okay? How can you play into them respecting themselves so you can get what you want? These are all ways to figure things out. So this is a language modality. Like, this is an operating system of the brain that certain programs run on top of if you want to connect better with a person, if you want to heal yourself from past traumas, if you want to give yourself clarity of the future, if you want to reduce your anxiety, if you want to build a game plan. Like, so all of those things are applications using this operating system of precise language. And as this podcast goes on, I'm going to be sharing with you, the all different types of applications to this. And I'm also going to be having interviews with people that have used precise language in their lives, so they can tell you how they uniquely apply it, because it's again, it's an understanding of what truly is. And once you see what truly is, you can use it in almost in more ways than I can think of. I'll just say that. Now, there are some times, and I'm gonna get comments in this video of like, oh, you used never, you used ain't, you used whatever void language I used. Okay. So void language isn't evil. Okay. It actually has its place, and its place is to create assumptions. Because if everything was super clear cut, then we would be bored. And what do people do when they're bored? They ruin shit. They do. They tend to destroy things, or they get or they get motivated by something. They get inspired and they create things. But one of the two things happens. And so when there's conflict, when there's stress, when there's struggle, when there's negative emotion that needs to be cleared, when there's confusion that needs to be cleared, when there's a misunderstanding that needs to be cleared, when there's a strategy that needs to be figured out, when something has to be cleared or figured out or smoothed over, at that point you sit down and you say, okay, let's remove all assumptions here and just get to the point. And then let's look at the point and make a choice to do something with it. So when is it appropriate to use precise language? When you're stuck in that loop of pain. Pain is necessary for creation. Suffering is not. Suffering is pain happening over and over and over again. And the way that the human consciousness works is we learn by pain, but we only really need to learn a lesson one time. If we learn it more than one time, it's because there's something that we're not seeing. Not seeing, that's a void. What do you see? Something's wrong. Well, something's right from some perspective. So what's right? What are you trying to do? How are you going to go about doing that? What is the drug that you gravitate towards when you get frustrated in the journey of having that? So, speaking precisely, when there's negative or confusion or fearful emotions involved, is when it's time to get down and get to it. Now, speaking vaguely, that shit's fun when emotionally you're on the same page. Vague language also allows us, when emotionally we're on the same page, for communication to be way more efficient. Hey, go put my hat over there. Over there? That's vague. Over where? On the fireplace. Like, on the fireplace? Like, it would be inefficient for me to say, hey, put my hat on the upper left-hand side of that fireplace, face down with the brim towards me. That's exhausting. But if we're on the same page and I say, hey, can you put my hat up there? Like, then you get it. Void language is also fun with creating ambiguity in flirting or in telling a joke or in playful deception, where it's like, yeah. So it really, when should you shift into the gear of total precise language? When there's interference with the flavor of negativity or the flavor of any type of pain. And for the most part, I'm speaking clearly here so you guys understand how to apply this language modality in order to consciously create whatever the hell you want in your life, to heal anything that's broken in your life, and to connect with anything and everything, including yourself, others, the world around you, in a very pure, intentional, mindful way. And if everyone in this world were to operate in a way that was self-aware and mindful and understanding and empathetic, and took the time to communicate clearly and to see the world objectively first, subjectively next, deliver that to whatever they're interacting with, and then make moves. People at their heart are good people. It's the pain, it's the loops, it's the suffering that turns us into pieces of shit. So when we're behaving that way to ourselves, whether it's self-abuse of just eating too much, eating late at night, or just negative self-talk, I'm a failure, I'm a piece of shit, I'm never gonna make it. Like when we have broken relationships, like you failed me, you left me, you abandoned me, you're a piece of shit. It's at those times that all that void language needs to be clarified and then interacted with by being more and more precise. Now today we talked about clear language. There's three steps to this whole precise language thing. First, you got to speak up. You got to use your words, because if the words are only in your head, then they will only ever be what's in your head, because in your mind is a universe in and of itself that has its own rules, its own agreements, and all of that. So you want shit to change out here, you need to get what's out here, and that's through using language, okay? Or writing words, okay? Speak up. 2, speak clear, meaning remove all of the void language. Or speak in the universal truths that everything is something, everything is somewhere, everything is something and somewhere, everything is always moving all the time, and everything is true from some perspective. And then after that, we get more precise. People confuse negativity with precision. When someone says, I hate you, that's clear. That is acceptable. What do you mean by hate? You make me feel angry. What does angry mean? So angry is clear. It means that I'm reacting intensely from the pain that you caused me. What did I do that caused you pain? You embarrassed me in front of my friends. What is it that I said that embarrassed you? You said that I was a loser. So then you can recap. Oh, you hate me because I called you a loser, and that made you feel humiliated. And now, that emotion is stirred up in you so much that it's getting you to act very intensely towards me. Yeah? Yeah. Shit. I'm sorry. Opposed to being like, I hate you. What the fuck did I do? You're any better? That's usually the way that it goes. But once you can start to craft language like this, relationships heal faster. The relationship you have with yourself heals faster. And when you want to communicate something clear, what would you like me to do in the future? In the future, when we're around people, I would like you to say positive things to me because I'm struggling with my confidence. Can you do that for me? I can absolutely do that for you. I'm sorry for what I did. In the future, I'm going to make sure that I say things that are positive too, because I care about you, and I believe in you, and I want to see your confidence raised. Now all of a sudden, that pain turns into progress, movement. Actually, those two people are closer now. And now that loop is broken, you can move on. And that pain in the past isn't still living and breathing and with blood vessels and shit. It fossilizes, meaning it becomes stone. It's no longer dynamic and breathing and functional, but it's merely just a reminder of, hey, we've been through this. Take a look. It's dead. Do you want it to come back to life? That is a void. It's a reminder of how to behave. Were you sorry? Yes. Why are you behaving that same way then? I'm allowing my emotions to cause me to act like a dick. So, these are some examples of how precise language works. What is it for episode 3? I don't know. Like, I plan out the rest of my content, but I know don'ts avoid. Let me restate. Pardon me. What's next? I'm going to allow myself time to allow that to come up organically. Maybe even just turn on the camera and start talking and see what happens. The purpose of this podcast is to get this shit out there. And speak up is the first rule. And when I leave all my thoughts in my notebook or in my audio journals or just my video journals, it really is the same as just thinking it in my head with a muzzle over my mouth. I'm such a perfectionist. I want everything to be just right. I want to remove my stutter, my ums, my ahs. I want it to be linear and compelling and all that shit. And so it because of those emotions, I've kept my thoughts to myself. And the purpose of this is just to get those thoughts out. So those of you who are still listening, I hope you learned something. If you like this, comment below. Give me a little thumbs up. If you think it's stupid, you think I'm a fraud, as I've been called many a times, hit the thumbs down button. Tell me how it is. Tell me how I'm wrong. Everything's true from some perspective, so you're right. Oh, boy. All right, so yeah, that's episode 2. That is how precise language works, and I can't wait for the next one. Peace.